A brand new thriller slash courtroom drama hit Netflix on Friday. We're going to talk about it. Is it worth a watch? What is up, Netflix fans? Welcome back to my channel. I'm talking all things on streaming and Netflix every weekend, so if you'd like to join me and subscribe to this channel, that would be awesome. But we're going to talk about Anatomy of a Scandal, a 6-episode limited series that I didn't know that much about, but it has a stacked cast. Let's get into it. So, this series infiltrates Britain's elite through personal and political scandal where the truth lies between justice and privilege. James and Sophie live in a blissful and rarefied world. A minister in Parliament, a loving family at home, his trajectory appears without limits until a scandalous secret suddenly comes to light and throws everything out of balance. Then you have Kate Woodcroft, who has a trajectory of her own, and her prosecution threatens to tear into Westminster, the White House marriage, and her own personal story. So essentially, you have a couple of different perspectives on this one through-line plot happening. We'll get into that in just a second. As always, we have to start with the rating here. That is TV mature, some thematic imagery, some extremely uncomfortable and at times frightening scenes, the sexual content, of course, with what we're dealing with. So very firmly in that camp of pretty much adults only. I'd say older teens could probably watch this and get away with it. Not a family show. And an easy way to describe this, it says it on IMDb, a sexual consent scandal. I don't want to use the R word just because YouTube, but we're going to approach it in that way as we go throughout this review. And even though it veers into that very intense territory when we start to bring about what went down between Rupert Friend's character and Naomi Scott's character in Olivia, it starts out on this lighthearted note. Sienna Miller plays his wife, Sophie. He has a family at home. He seems like a really good dad, a really good person overall, but then this scandal begins to come to light, and these accusations should not be taken lightly. So not only are they beginning to derail his career and, of course, his personal life, but his mentality on pretty much everything is like slowly but surely spiraling out of control, even though you could look at him in the first few episodes and say, he's actually handling it better than one could perceive. So it's up to Rupert Friend and his performance as James to kind of keep us out of the loop to where we don't fully know if the truths are coming to light or if his side of things carries more weight than maybe we anticipate, because we immediately want to look at him and say, well, he's a scumbag for everything that he did. But you have these two distinct perspectives, and the idea of the show is to kind of have you wondering whether or not the full truth is on one side or the other. But the intrigue that comes from this series is the fact that it's a full-on, at points, especially throughout the first, episodes 2, 3, and 4, it's a courtroom drama. And the retelling and recounting of these stories, whether it be from Naomi Scott's character, Olivia, her perspective, and then going up in the balcony, seeing Sienna Miller's Sophie, the wife that just has to sit there and listen to everything be brought to light, the recounting of this story, and then she starts to think about all of these things. The romance, the spark between them feels real. He's looking at her in these recountings, these flashbacks. It feels like he was doing it in a way that he looks at me, so it's that perspective, and she feels like she has to be on his side no matter what, and people are approaching her and saying, how are you feeling about this entire thing? Because all of this is coming out and coming to light. And then we start to get twists and turns in the story that take it a step further. And because he's a political figure in this country, all of it feels amplified to a 100. Now, we've seen stories in real life, and this isn't technically based on one specific true story, but what I've read says that this was written by people who are a part of that government, so they're taking things that they've seen and they're spinning it in somewhat of a fictional direction. But to me, it feels like it is something that, yeah, it feels real, because this is the type of stuff that we've seen before, but to get it in this way and to carry it as solely almost a courtroom drama at times, but then you have that psychological thriller aspect to it, especially when we're recounting all of these events, that's a smart way to spin it. We know who we want to believe, but can we fully commit to that side? And it allows us to look at these characters in various ways, and of course we're going to look at James as kind of that, all right, why does someone that has it all decide to do this in the first place? And the scandal in itself is bad enough, and treating his wife like this and being so easily forgiving, even though you can approach it from her perspective, saying she doesn't know what to do with herself in this situation. Everyone's telling her one thing, she wants to believe another. I believe Sienna Miller's performance in this show is absolutely awesome, and it allows you to gravitate towards her so much throughout this series. But then you bring in the sexual assault. And again, I don't want to use that word because YouTube won't like that I use that word, but that takes everything, amplifies it. It has us locked in during these courtroom drama scenes, and it keeps us invested throughout. Now, as the series goes, as we progress, it does begin to wear you down just a little bit, not only emotionally because of the weight of this situation and the gravity of everything, but because it's a bit repetitive. And it also has a lot of trouble trying to stick to one thing, like, is it just a courtroom drama? There are scenes that make me think, are they going for erotic thriller here, even though that's not what I feel they should be going for. It's almost like this show is having a bit of an identity crisis as we go, and I could feel that pacing going up and down. The performances are still great, and even though there are clear shortcomings with the script, it keeps it as concise as it can. So before I give you my score, if you're here and you want more Netflix reviews, drop that like down below. It helps the algorithm, and come back for more Netflix reviews. I appreciate every single subscription. While not as focused as it needs to be, this courtroom drama manages to maintain tension and will keep viewers interested. It is occasionally difficult to watch, but the performances are great. My score is a 70%. I like what this show was trying to do. Not entirely consistent, but it's definitely a watch that will keep you on the edge of your seat. How did you feel about this 6-episode series? Appreciate you for watching. I'll see you soon.